with it, because if we give it to you, you'll write confusing software. And I'm like, oh, what makes it confusing? And it's like, oh, well, you'd have to read it. And like, it might be like syntax heavy. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't want any of that. Like, I don't like no part of me wants someone taking those choices from me and going, hey, kid, you're not smart enough to solve that problem. And like, it drives me insane, and it makes me want to bite my fingernails off. And so like, I will avoid it with like all of my ability, except sometimes when I'm like, okay, the right thing to do is to like use this language because the overwhelming amount of software in that space is written in that language, or there's an overwhelming number of libraries. And like, Chef wrote a lot of Go. It was very successful with it. But if I was really looking at the times I had fun, it wasn't when I was writing. I didn't write hardly any Go. And if I had to, I'm not sure I'd have made that same decision, because it drives me insane because I dislike that piece. And there are other people, Mitchell Hashimoto, for example, who I know loves that piece of it. He's like, yeah, I feel like that's great advice. We shouldn't do those things. People who do those things are bad people. And this is not the way. And I'm like, God bless you. Like, go on with it. But I think it's got nothing to do with language design. It's not about what's right or wrong. It's all about like, do you want someone to tell you what's safe and good? If so, man, use a safe and good language. Do you want to be able to just do what you want to do in the way you think is best? Then maybe use one of those.
Well, and I think, sorry, if Adam, I can jump in for a second, Adam, I think there was when I approached Go, I think I saw some things that I really liked that I hadn't seen. Like I sort of grew up on C and some Java, and I liked the sort of snugness. I liked the opinionatedness of Go, and then to your point, some of those opinions I just really disagreed with. So I found novelty in the strictures, but just like objected to some of the specifics.
Well, and I think it's so interesting because, Adam, to your point, and Adam, to your point about Go as well, the fact that like safety is so important for Rust, and yet even Rust is like, hey, here is actually an unsafe keyword, and you can actually remove not all of these structures, but many of them. And Rust allows you to do unsafe things in a language that is built around safety. I mean, that is a lot of trust in the programmer. And at the same time, Rust also, I mean, Rust, and Adam, I think, I feel the same way about, when I'm writing code, it's a part of my expression. And there's a freedom of expression there that is really important to me. And I feel like when you've got a language, like, why will you go not trust me, the programmer, with asserts? Like, I can abuse them. I can abuse lots of things. And you know what I mean? It's like, it feels like I'm not being trusted with my own craft.
Yeah, that's because you're not. Like, and,
right.
And like, Elm does the same thing. Like, hey, I'd like to write like a new, like, custom thing. And they're like, okay, well, you can do it through ports, or you can get special dispensation from the God King of Elm. And I'm like as soon as I saw the like, oh my God, I have to appeal to the God King of Elm. Like, I was like, oh, fuck Elm. Like, I can't hang out with this at all. And like, even though like it's definitely speaking to me, like as an engineer, I'm like, oh, Elm, that looks really good. Like, that's like a hot tub for me. This is a catnip. But like, nope, can't do it because God King has to say it's okay. And I'm like, nope, I'm out, done. Can't hang out with you. Gotta go.
Yeah, there is something like the God King is a turnoff, isn't it? At least for me, maybe, but for some people it's a turn on. I guess that's what your point.
Some people they really like it. They're like, oh yes, please.
Oh, thank God, God King is here. God King is here to tell us what to do.
Especially in Go, like the God King is very impressive. Like, no part of me believes I'm a better programmer than the people who are telling me what I should and shouldn't do in Go. Those guys are great. They are uniformly stellar software developers.
Okay, so
and they might not be like whatever in the grand pantheon of software developers. I'm sure there's better software developers, but like, they're no slouches. It's not their first rodeo. Like they're like entitled to their opinion or whatnot, Like, but oof.
But if your first rodeo was Plan 9 OS,
that was their second rodeo, to be fair.
So this is where I do get, like, I feel that sometimes, and okay, like, look, I'm probably as guilty of this as anyone. I think we overly lionize Unix a little bit. And in that, like, there's so much that's important about Unix.
Says the Unix superhero.
Okay, Is that who I am? I'm just a man.
You're many things, but yeah, you definitely have like a fucking dtrace cape.
Okay, but am I like? I hope that I have, and I probably have like overly lionized Unix. I think Unix is extremely important, but Unix as an actual engineering artifact was left a lot of room to be improved, like a lot of room to be improved, like so much room to be improved that it took us like decades to actually get it fucking working. And like, I mean, if you look at like 7th edition, like 7th edition is like it's amazing. And it's incredible, and it's a breakthrough, and it's also like kind of a shitty engineering artifact that needed a lot of work.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, so we're talking about asserts here, right? And like one of the things is tearing down threads is a mess in almost every single runtime out there. And it's like what assert is going to go and do for you. But to drop a little kind of bomb into the conversation, there's asserts in the Go standard library in the implementation. Right? It's just a hand-rolled assert for their own purposes. And I mean, I don't know who wrote that wiki entry, right? It might be the core team, or it might just be some random person, but like you can find a #C wiki from Freenode and just like it's full of stuff like that. So like, is the assert, we were talking earlier about like, do you want a supervisor system or a thing that takes the process down? And you could implement your assert as OS exit, which is just going to tear the process down, not run any callback or anything else, or you could implement it as panic and do a supervisor. So, like, which one do you want?
Or take a fucking core dump. I know that, like, this is where I don't know. I mean, Adam, this is where I do feel like maybe we're crazy, because I feel that the very best way to debug an errant system is to take a snapshot of system state and debug how you got into this errant state. And that snapshot system state is called a core dump. And I feel we have failed because this is not something that many people do.
Have you ever tried to debug a Go core dump?
I'd like to interject and mention 2 brief PSAs, because I know we are on the Twitter Spaces cap limit, and I'd like to take myself off the PSA. And I actually think it's like such a timely moment to mention this with respect to core dumps and snapshots. So PSA number 1 is that today is Alan Kay's 81st birthday.
Wow.
So Alan Kay did the Smalltalk and also Dynabook. So
can I say on this moment, thank you for Alan Kay's wife also wrote Tron. Did anybody know that? I learned that yesterday.
So there is this video that Alan Kay made to celebrate Ted Nelson's. There was this event that they celebrated Ted Nelson's, and Alan Kay couldn't make it, and Steve Wozniak was physically present there, and instead of Alan Kay dubbed, but Alan Kay recorded a video, and in the video there is Alan Kay and Alan Kay's wife, and Alan Kay's wife describes how Tron was typesetted on Alto, I think, or something similar to that. I don't know that.
You are blowing my mind. I thought my mind was blown when I learned this fact yesterday, and you are really detonating my mind. So, Tron was typeset on Alto?
It's something like that. It's probably the first, what is it, like the film manuscript, or what do they call the ones that they type in monospace?
Right. So I even know the scene they're talking. So I don't think Tron's a great movie.
I've never watched Tron, so that's like the weird thing about it.
Like the light bikes are awesome, but Adam, when was the last time you watched Tron?
Me?
Either Adam.
Never.
Adam, Jacob, you watched Tron?
So many times. When I was one of my earliest memories was like in like a daycare when I was like pre-first grade, and they would take us to the movies like twice a week, and because it was clearly a very different era, and Tron was the only movie for like months, and so like that is burned into my early memories the same way that like Mount St. Helens exploding is burned into my memory.
Is there a way that I can be assured that you and I will be in the same Gen X retirement home, Adam? Because I could. This story warms my heart.
Yeah.
So Nima, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack you on Tron, although you because I know you had something else you wanted to say. That is amazing though. I can't get over. So all right, so Adam, I don't think Tron is that good a movie, though. Is what I wanted to.
No. I mean, like canonically good as a film. Like, I mean, way ahead of its time in visual effects or whatever. But like,
totally.
But like, you know, was like Bread Knobs and Broomsticks a very good movie? Not really, but it did have like Angela Lansbury and a bunch of like knights. You know, like it's pretty good. And there's like that weird animated segment in the middle where they like play soccer. It's pretty cool.
So I guess my stack is pretty limited. So if you want to pop the Tron topic, we get back to Alan Kay's wife. So Alan Kay's wife in Ted Nelson's in the video that Alan Kay made to celebrate Ted Nelson, Alan Kay's wife is laying on the ground holding a copy of Computer Lib Dream Machines, which is a book that Ted Nelson wrote and is very celebrated. Right. And it's like a double book. So it's shot it in 2 scenes. Alan Kay's wife is laying on the ground, reading it from left to right, and then you gotta watch the video. So in any case, it's like
so, and that is in Tron. Alan Kay's wife is also, she didn't really write Tron, but she's actually in Tron.
I don't know about that, but it happens to be that the story about typesetting Tron was how Alan Kay's wife and Alan Kay met.
Adam Jacob, did you know this?
Oh, so that's no, not at all.
I mean, your mind has to be blowing up on this.
Yeah, I really like Alan Kay. Like,
so it's really not a video that Alan Kay made for Ted Nelson. It's a video that they made to say, thank you, Ted Nelson, that you are pretty much the reason that we got to know each other. Because apparently Ted Nelson also had to do something with the Tron script or something.
Alan Kay is the perfect example, though, of the anti-Go. Like, Alan Kay, like, Smalltalk, everything was open. And that's what made it great. It was like, yeah, you could do crazy stuff. And then, like, the crazy stuff could destroy the whole thing. But, like...
interesting.
But, boy, like, the art of it was, like, fully expressed, you know? Like, Alan Kay was never going to be like, oh, don't do that. That's too artistic. Like, that's too out of the bounds. Like, and anyway...
I guess, I don't know like how to wrap the first PSA up, but so happy Alan Kay's 85th birthday to everybody who celebrates Smalltalk and snapshots and Dynabook and Dtrace and Swift Playgrounds. And the second PSA is that today is tax deadline day, so if you're filing an amend or something, please do that. And like I would take myself off from the speakers because like somebody else should probably join it. So.
Nima, those are 2 very good PSAs. I do love the fact that you're like, look, I'm with a bunch of software engineers, so you got to get these in the right priority order. And the top priority is like we got to talk about Alan Kay's 81st birthday, and then like
But it was like you folks were talking about the snapshots on core DOMs, and I was like, a Smalltalk is somewhat relevant here. So
I ran across it, and Nima, thank you so much for expanding on the role of that Tron introduced Alan Kay to his wife. I ran across that fact just yesterday I'm reading The Friendly Orange Glow by Brian Deere. Have you read this, Adam, on PLATO?
No, I haven't.
It's an amazing book. I got to say, it is well written, and the PLATO history is crazy. It is this like internet alternate timeline. Do you know anything about PLATO?
No, very little.
So this is the system developed at the University of Illinois in the 70s, and is basically a network system that is quite literally like 15 years plus ahead of its time.
I don't think we caught it until Khan Academy. Right. No, that's right. So what Aaron is saying is like that we did not get to the point where PLATO is actually designed to be a pedagogical system, in part because that's the way they could get funding for this stuff. And just like breakthrough display technology. So they had the 512 by 512 at a time when, like, I mean, that was way ahead of anything else. Plasma technology. And anyway, this book, The Friendly Orange Glow, is about at this point maybe 3/4 of a third. And I knew about PLATO from reading about CDC. About control data and their very strange CEO. But anyway, that's how I ran across we'll put a link to that in our Twitter Space show notes, but highly recommended. It's a very good book.
You just blew my mind with the Plato reference. I worked on Plato back in the early 80s, late 70s. I'm an old fart. I don't even know why I'm on this call with you guys. I love you. You're all so passionate. Well, I just like to listen. But Brian, you just blew me away.
No, Bob, you blew me away. So tell me about it. How did you get exposed to Plato? Tell me all about it.
Oh my God. Well, so
Oh, did Twitter Spaces mute you, Bob? Is why Twitter Spaces?
I'm back. Okay. So high school in the late 70s, right? And my computing experience is a Ristus PDP-11, which we would like dial into at 300 baud with a Decwriter teleprinter. But I completely got hooked on computers in 11th grade through this experience, and I was an electronics geek even before that and stuff. But anyway.
And Bob, where did you grow up? Where are you going to high school?
Wilmington, Delaware.
Wilmington. Oh, okay. So this is the University of Delaware system,
this
actually.
Is the University of Delaware Plato system that I'm to. But the University of Delaware also hosted a time-sharing system for all the high schools in the state of Delaware. And that's where I really got my start on computers. It was like some math class where it's like, okay, you can, write a basic program to print out prime numbers or something. And my second day on the thing, I was like, how do I hack into the operating system and figure out all the system calls?
So have you read Brian Deere's book? It came out about 2 years ago.
No, what book?
It's called The Friendly Orange Glow.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I will check it out for sure.
Hey, Brian, Tom here.
Hey, Tom.
I have a copy of the book that I haven't managed to read yet, but I did get to use a Plato terminal way back around 75 or 76. They had it at Cornell. I was visiting my brother there. And
of course, God, Tom, it's like, of course, is this the same brother or is this a different brother?
No, brother number 17 or whatever. But yeah, one of the cool things about the Plato terminal was, there was limited bandwidth, even though they had the dot matrix screen. And I think Cornell's host was actually somewhere else, probably Illinois. So they just had the terminal. But some of the terminals had a facility where you could feed 35 millimeter slides into it, and the program could select to display a slide.
That's the Plato 4 terminal has that. Yeah, they talk about that quite a bit.
So that's very.
And so, Tom, when you saw this, it must have been mind blowing to see this when you saw it. And Bob, obviously, it was mind blowing for you because it was your first computing experience. But I imagine, that sounds way ahead of its time in the 70s.
Oh, it was. No, my first computing experience was on a teletype. When I saw a bitmapped graphics display in 1979, I'm like, whoa, baby. And not just one, but a room full of them. They were all hooked up to some CDC mainframe or something. And they had rooms full of them at the education department of U of D.
Well,
my first bitmap display was at Bell Labs in 1973. And that's not when I was working there. That's when my other brother was working there. But they had these plasma displays, and they were flat, so you look at the front, it's very cool. You look at the back, and it's the same thing. It was just a screen. You could see both sides.
The orange glow.
Yeah.
It's the orange glow. Yeah. And they... Bob, you're going to really love this book, and I'm sure you're going to. David Graeber at the University of Delaware plays an important role in the book. But the book is very well researched and well written, which I feel is unusual, just in general. And it's been.
I don't remember the name, but he might be one of the people who was chasing me out of the room, saying, "What are you high school kids doing?"
Well, so it's funny. This is why you're really going to like the book, because that's a real theme of the book. Is all the high schoolers in both Delaware and in Illinois that are exposed to computing via Plato, and how they are having to sneak time onto these systems, and all the hijinks. And they talked about one lab where people would go into, they would physically hide in the lab and wait for it to be closed so they could get compute time.
Oh yeah, all of that was going on for sure.
And so I gotta ask, did you play Empire or Aviator? Is that the other one? What's the other one? Aviators? I don't know what
No, I was all about writing my own lessons. I wrote my own lessons like on crazy stuff, like, you know, how to hack the elevators in Smith Hall.
Oh my god!
Just crazy nutty stuff.
So because I think one of the things it's tough in the book is that a lot of this stuff is just lost because their storage was so finite that things would just get deleted.
I have nothing from before like 10 years after that.
Yeah, wow. And so, Bob, you wrote in TUTOR then, right? That was the language.
Yeah.
So tell me about TUTOR, because there's not like a lot on. You kind of mentioned TUTOR, but like, what's the analog to TUTOR today? It seems like a very... Educate me on TUTOR.
I mean, I'm not like a language compiler guy like I heard all you guys on the call, so I'm probably not going to do justice to that question. But, I mean, at that point, my only computer language experience was BASIC. You know, line 10, print, line, you know, blah, blah. And you know, like Dartmouth, blah, blah, on the DEC mini computer. But it I don't know, was it object-oriented? I don't even remember.
From all the snapshots I can find, I'm like, I don't see how you build anything powerful in this language, and yet people built very powerful things. So I do not understand it. I'd like to understand it. It looks like BASIC and Snowball had a baby. It just looks very strange to me. But it's also like it's kind of in that pre-C class of languages that just look antediluvian to the modern eye. But clearly it's incredibly powerful because people built lots of interesting things in it.
Well, you know, it was kind of crazy different time because, you know, you were on computers with so few resources. I mean, you know, you didn't have like all the memory and stuff. You know, nobody was talking about like garbage collection or anything because you had to, you know, just love every precious byte you had.
Well, and I think, you know, one of the things that has come out in so many of our conversations and On the Metal and the Oxide podcast is how much those resource constraints resulted in creativity. And I think that, like, actually we do our more creative engineering when we have those constraints. Certainly, I don't know, Adam, I don't know how you feel. We feel that at Oxide, where we are dealing with some embedded systems that have got very tight constraints and have to be very creative as a result. But it's amazing what was done on this. So, Bob, you're going to love this book. You are going to just, because the book is about not just the technical advances of Plato, but then about all the social dynamic of this kind of primordial internet and how, you know, people are publishing online for the first time. It's really, really interesting.
Brian, on that topic, this David Graeber, have you stumbled across his blog that started in 1977?
No, I haven't. I haven't even Googled it. Is it?
I have fallen all the way down this rabbit hole.
Oh my God! Is that where you've been for the last 20 minutes?
Oh my God! It's some of his anti-war stuff. It's deep. It's deep. It's great. It's going to be in the show notes for sure, but it's on grapenotes.com, and it's stuff that he was writing on the Plato in the late 70s, early 80s. It's pretty interesting.
Well, that's great that actually, because it's great that that's been preserved, because one of the persistent themes is they've got such a finite amount of storage, they're constantly like deleting things. And then when they delete these things, there are no hard copies and they're just gone. And so there was this news service effectively that was run and Bob, maybe you remember this, run out of the U of I for 2 years in the late 70s that was like it for news, and it was this like first online news, and they're scooping the paper, the Illini paper there at the U of I, and then but they're constantly having to delete articles to make room. So it's grapenotes.com, Adam.
Yeah, Grape Notes. But this is Dr. David Graeber, right?
Yes, that's it. Oh, yes, I got it. Sure. I get it. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Well, we'll have to go check it out. And Bob, you're gonna have to check out this book and
So Tom, did your brother end up actually doing anything on the Plato, or did it?
No, they were just there. I don't think he ever did much with him. So.
Because I would love it. It would be interesting to kind of compare and contrast the Plato experience with the Xerox PARC Alto experience, which I gather was a similar kind of like, Tom, you've described it as like, all of a sudden I'm looking into the future. It'd be interesting to kind of compare and contrast those two experiences.
Yeah, I mean, the Alto was much more of what we believe to be a computer. The Plato thing was a terminal.
Was a terminal, yeah. Well, and I think it kind of goes back to like the where we were talking about earlier in terms of, I do feel that like, and I'm excited to kind of finish this book up and get Brian Deere's perspective on it, but Plato was very, very centralized. And you do wonder if that was part of the internet took off because it was decentralized. Mm-hmm. And it couldn't have worked if it had been centralized.
So Plato was vector graphics. Was Alto pixels or vectors?
No, Plato was pixels.
Yeah, but Plato's bitmapped.
Physically pixels, but I don't know what the programming model was.
The programming model is very, very, like, it's very coordinate based. It is not vector based.
Anyway,
from what I can see of TUTOR.
And they have quite a few Plato manuals about the hardware and stuff. So.
And I'm sure there's going to be when we did Systems We Love in Minneapolis, I was hoping to get a Plato talk. This is before the book was published. Now, of course, the book is well documented, and there's so many notes in there. And Bob, you are going to, if you go to the acknowledgments of this book, you are absolutely going to see people you knew, because he has clearly spoken with so many people who use the system.
I'm going to get the book for sure.
Yeah, I know you have to come back and tell us what you think and expand on it with some stories. So we've been trying to hold this to about an hour. So I think we will probably wind it up here before Twitter Spaces dies on me again. Adam, I hope we got a recording of this.
We definitely this part, which was the gold part, rather than me just rereading the Go statement on asserts over and over again. This part, I'm pretty sure we got.
All right.
So this has been awesome, and I'd say next week, should we plug Silicon Cowboys? Is that the plan?
Yeah, I think we should. Yeah, I think the plan is to talk about Silicon Cowboys next week. So the Silicon Cowboys is a documentary. If you tried to watch *Halt and Catch Fire*, I wanted to sit down and watch *Halt and Catch Fire*. I talked my 13-year-old into watching it with me. But a lot of sex was breaking out in *Halt and Catch Fire*. It got to the point, like, we're not like sorry prudish with my 13-year-old definitely knows the birds and the bees, but he's definitely like, we got a couple episodes in. He's like, Dad, can we watch something else? There's just a lot of sex in this. I'm like, there is a lot of sex in this supposed drama about a computer company. Like, a lot of sex breaks out. And the *Halt and Catch Fire* is based on the rise of Compaq, which is captured in this documentary called Silicon Cowboys. Which, Adam, I gather you watched it over the weekend.
It was awesome, and
it wasn't great. Yeah, it was good.
So if you love *Halt and Catch Fire* but hate sex,
that's right. You're right, exactly. Or if you want to watch *Halt and Catch Fire* with your kids, I thought it was better than *Halt and Catch Fire* in part because it's all true. The story of Compaq is amazing, but we'll plug that, and if people want to watch that, we'll talk about that next time, among other things.
I got to come back next week now because I can tell you about my time at Compaq.
Yes.
There you go. That's a good teaser. God, Bob, you just delivering the goods. Yeah. All right, you have to come back and tell us about Compaq. Another quick plug is to read Rod Canyon's book called Open on. I think Compaq's a really interesting company. And Bob, you're going to have to give us your take when you come back.
Will do.
Also,
awesome.
One last comment on Spaces and Go.
You bet.
Spaces is written in Go, so we have to give Go that much credit.
Well, maybe is it possible that we're being like punished when we are speaking ill of the God King? So then an assertion is tripping somewhere, and we are dying.
I'm sure it's looking for Brian Cantrell specifically and people who've criticized the Twitter stack when it was in Ruby.
There you go.
Sounds right.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot, everybody.
Thanks,
I hope to see you next week. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks.